Hi everyone. Sorry, I'm drinking kombucha. I've just filmed my kombucha video. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you that don't know, I am Carla. I am a certified health coach and I also have Crohn's disease. So this video is basically my Crohn's journey, and so I thought I would talk you through that. I'm gonna drink my kombucha as I go along. Oh, so good. You'll have to excuse the noise. One, I'm having to film with my front camera at the moment because my back camera is broken, but I am getting that fixed tomorrow, so hopefully from here on out my videos will be of better quality. And I don't know if you noticed, but there's like a buzzing noise in the background. That's something to do with the camera and I don't understand what's going on, so I have an appointment tomorrow to get that sorted out. And also there are some people sitting outside my steps and they keep shouting things, so I'll try and edit it out. If I can't, excuse that. As I was saying, this video is pretty much just about how I got diagnosed, my symptoms, what's going on now, and I guess everything in between. I'm going to try and be as brutally honest as possible because I want to help people. I think for a long time, the thing is with something like Crohn's, it's a bit of an embarrassing disease. It's not embarrassing. None of us should feel embarrassed at all. But I think particularly I felt embarrassed, especially as a girl, talking about kind of things like toilet habits and things like that. It just felt uncomfortable and I felt embarrassed about it and I felt shy, and it was something I didn't really want to talk about. And I think now I've learned to live with it, and I've learned that there's no reason to be embarrassed. This is just what has happened, and if I can help anyone by talking about it, then great. I've got to an age now where I can't afford to be embarrassed anymore, because this is just my reality and it's so many people's realities. 1 in 123 people are now diagnosed with a form of IBD, so either Crohn's or colitis, and that number is rising, and there is a lot of reasons why that is rising, and I think a lot of it is lifestyle and diet and stress and all these other things. So if that number is rising, then that means there's going to be more and more people with it, and I need to learn to talk about it. We need to learn to talk about it and help each other, and yeah. So let me take a sip of my kombucha and I'll start. Sorry, this is a long video, but I have had it for quite a long time. So I will start with my diagnosis and the symptoms that I was having before my diagnosis. I started having symptoms when I was about 16, which I think is quite young, but also that is kind of quite a common age, around like the kind of teens age to get diagnosed. It was right after I kind of finished school that I started getting symptoms, and I was going through a really stressful time at the time. I was in a bit of a turbulent relationship. I hope my ex doesn't mind me saying this. I think, you know, at that age, relationships can be a bit like that. It's like your first relationship. It was, you know, I was very emotionally invested in that, and things were quite stressful, and I was doing my GCSEs. I just finished my GCSEs and I was going into college, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life, and that was really stressful. And I think, to be honest, I lived a very unhealthy lifestyle. I smoked. I was going out drinking a lot at that age. There was loads of parties, house parties and whatever, and I was always blackout drunk. My diet was awful. I was one of those people that I was always really thin, but I could eat however much food I wanted, and I kind of took advantage of that and just ate junk food. I was eating McDonald's and KFC and Burger King and probably everything else you could imagine. I ate relatively healthy at home-ish, but not even particularly. I just ate whatever I wanted and thought I could kind of get away with the consequences. And so then I started getting symptoms, which were diarrhea, basically, pretty much, like 20 times a day, which is obviously really worrying at any age. But I think at that age, it's you know, it's really concerning. And then abdominal pain, pretty much were my two symptoms. I couldn't really hold any food down. So I'd be at college and I didn't want to eat anything, have to keep going to the toilet, but then I wasn't eating and I wasn't absorbing anything. So I had absolutely no energy. I was doing beauty therapy at college and you had to stand up for quite a long periods of time, and I couldn't. And out on like a parents' evening, they asked my mum if I was okay and if I was taking any drugs, because I'd lost so much weight. I was a small girl anyway, but I think I went down to maybe 6 stone something. I was, you know, skin and bone basically. All of my clothes, I was wearing size 4 clothes and they were hanging off of me, which is obviously scary. I felt really self-conscious about how I looked as well. I had no energy. I had to go home and just sleep. And I was working at the time as well. So that was all just really, really hard. And I think in the end it took maybe 9 months to be diagnosed. I went to and fro from the doctors, did blood tests, did this, did that. They didn't know what was wrong. I think my inflammatory markers were up. They were like, oh, it could be anxiety. Has she got an eating disorder? In the end, they booked me in for a colonoscopy, which I'm guessing maybe if you're watching this, that you potentially have IBD, so you know the process of going through a colonoscopy anyway isn't pleasant. At this point, I was 17. Yeah, at 17, that's not pleasant. I did it without sedation because not being in control scares me more than pain. So I'd rather have felt some pain and understood what was going on and felt in control, which, yeah, that's how I felt at the time. That was the right decision for me. So then I got diagnosed after the colonoscopy with Crohn's disease. I think at the time I didn't really... I was happy that I had an answer and that there was something that could be done about it, but I don't think I really deeped that I've got this thing that's going to affect me. I didn't really think how much it would affect me for so long. They say it's an incurable disease and that you have it for life and you're on medication for life, which I've proved isn't strictly true. I mean, it's something that has affected me throughout, you know, my life so far. So then they put me on a large course of steroids. Sorry, the kombucha makes me really fizzy in my throat. So I got put on a large course of steroids, the 2-month steroids. I'm sure, again, a lot of people have been put on that. A tapering course, which I didn't actually feel too many side effects from that first lot, which was great. Got someone with a guitar outside my window. Maybe we'll have some background music. And then they put me on azathioprine, which is an immune suppressant. So essentially what it does is it wipes out your immune system, suppresses your immune system, because the idea is they believe that Crohn's disease is an autoimmune disease and it is your immune system attacking healthy cells in your intestines, basically. So the theory is if you take an immune suppressant, then that will stop happening. So it did control my symptoms. I was symptom free for 3-4 years. Kind of, I mean, I was fine, you know. I wasn't completely symptom free, but I was well enough to just kind of live a normal life. However, immune suppressants, they didn't really align with my way of things, I guess I can say. I was definitely looking into the more holistic route at this point, because I thought, I can't be on medication forever. There's got to be another way. And also I was catching, because my immune system was so low, I was catching every bug under the sun, any kind of, I remember I got this one massive rash kind of going all around here that I'd caught, which I probably wouldn't have caught if I wasn't on immune suppressants, and, you know, any illness that was going around, I would have got, obviously. I thought about it for a long time, and I decided to come off of them. And I was fine I couldn't tell you, I think I came off of them about 21, and I was fine up until 25, completely fine, you know. I had like the odd kind of stressful period where I might have like a little bit of a slight flare, but nothing major. I didn't have to take any medication for it. Handled it all. And to be honest, I mean, for periods of time, my diet and lifestyle was pretty healthy for the most part. For a good few years, I really focused on that, and that was when I was the healthiest I'd ever been. I had absolutely no symptoms at all. Also, at this point, I have to say that, yeah, I'd stopped smoking, and I would still drink, not really a fair bit, but I would enjoy a night out every now and again. I was, you know, early 20s. I'm going to enjoy the odd night out or whatever, but I've never been one to go crazy all out drinking all weekend, every weekend, apart from when I was like 16, but at this point. And then I got to maybe, 25 or 26, and I had a bit of a flare up. At that point, I was going out a bit more. I was massively stressed. I don't even really know why. I just really let everything kind of get to me at this point. And I went on another course of steroids. That cleared everything up. However, that course of steroids was the worst course of steroids I have ever, I mean, it was horrible. And, you know, I gained a lot of weight. And obviously, you know, that is a common side effect of steroids anyway. But I think I gained something like 17 kilograms in the space of 3 weeks or something. And I'm not moaning and being like, you know, I was so big or anything, but for me, I'm a petite girl. Naturally, like, you know, if I'm just not really watching what I'm eating, or I mean calorie wise, like my standard size is a size 6, and I think I went up to a size 14 in 3 weeks. And for me, I mean, obviously that really affected my self-confidence and everything. I felt really low. And steroids, they stop you from sleeping as well. So I wasn't sleeping, and I was still working full time. And people were making comments to me about my weight, which is just wrong in so many instances anyway. And my moods were very erratic. I was angry 1 minute, crying the next, ecstatically happy 3 minutes later. It was hard, and I think unless you have taken that medication, you do not, no one can know how hard that is. But yeah, that was probably one of the hardest times I've gone through. And then, God, this is going to be a long video, I'm sorry. And then I was fine again. I didn't want to go back on medication because I wasn't that bad. It was, to be honest, the effects of the steroids were worse than the like little flare that I was actually experiencing at that time. To be honest, if I'd have actually dialed into my kind of lifestyle, I think I probably could have avoided steroids at that point, but I didn't. So you live and you learn. Then everything was fine. Everything was great, in fact. So then I went traveling, and it was this whole big plan. I'd wanted to go traveling my entire life, travel to Southeast Asia and that area, and just, you know, experience all of that. And it was just, yeah. So first of all, I went to India, And on the first night, this was a 7-month trip as well. Well, it ended up being a 7-month trip. And on the first night, we'd been traveling for, I don't know, literally over a day. I'm really hungry. And the only place open was like a little food stall on the side of the street in the middle of New Delhi, because it was about midnight or something. So I got a vegetable samosa and I ate that, and I felt a bit weird, and I woke up the next day and I was bleeding from my bum, and we thought it was deli belly, but it just got worse. And I was really scared because I had never experienced bleeding before throughout my whole life. I know people do experience that with Crohn's or colitis, but I never had it. It had never been a symptom that had ever affected me. So I was obviously really concerned, but I just started my 7-month traveling trip. So stupidly, I did try and ignore it. I was obviously worried, but I really just wanted to experience traveling, and it really kind of was ruining my trip quite a lot. And I really didn't want it to. I really didn't want it to be this negative thing. So obviously I tried to kind of see doctors while I was there. A lot of them couldn't really do much, and they just prescribed me all this stuff, and I was just taking it because I was like, well, I just want to enjoy my time, you know. I'd saved up and, you know, wanted to go traveling for my whole life, and I'm finally here, and now this has happened. And it was really hard to kind of get out of the mindset of negative spiraling. Anyway, the bleeding and the diarrhea and the pain, I started getting like a pain kind of right here, right in my kind of lower left side, kind of constantly, to be honest. I went to so many other countries after that, and throughout the whole kind of 7-month trip, this bleeding was persisting constantly, every single day. And I saw more doctors. I saw doctors in Thailand. I saw a doctor in Laos. I spent like £600 on medication. It's like special medication that they sent through in Vietnam, and nothing was working. And I thought, there's got to be another way. And it was during this trip that I got really into kind of a holistic healing, I guess. And it's also when I decided that I wanted to become a health coach so that I could help myself and then also help other people. And not even particularly with Crohn's. That's not Crohn's and colitis or IBD. That's not even just really all I work with. I talk about it because that's something that has obviously really affected me. But I just want people to live as healthy and as happy as they can. But yeah. Fast forward, I come back from traveling 7 months later. I don't get a hospital appointment with my specialist until February, and I think I came back in the end of July. So throughout this whole period of time, I'm trying to kind of heal myself. I did extended juice fasts. I did, you know, trying to do like a healing diet. And I to be honest, I only concentrated on food. And I was really, really, really stressing myself out. And that I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to be able to heal this naturally. And I was freaking out. I mean, I admitted it to some people, but I was freaking out. One, because I'd been bleeding, you know, at this point for a year, over a year. I'd become anemic. I was, you know, stressed. So I thought, okay, so I had a colonoscopy, and I also did a water fast, and all of these things did help. What's strange is when I was diagnosed with Crohn's, I only had Crohn's in my small bowel, so my small intestine, the ileum, which is the part where B12 is absorbed, like nutrients, and, you know, mostly where your vitamin B12 is absorbed. And when they did this next colonoscopy, there was absolutely nothing. My small intestine was fine, proving that the things that I had been doing had actually been working. However, after I'd got that food poisoning in India, I did actually forget to mention I got food poisoning a second time in India, and I was throwing up like crazy, and that was just another thing, and that made the symptoms a lot worse as well. People did actually warn me about going to India with IBD, and I would love to go back and experience it properly, but knowing what I know now. Anyway, then so I had no sign of disease in my small intestine, but I had it in the last part of my large intestine, which was why it was bleeding. Well, not because it was in the large intestine, but because it was so close to the outside world. And that continued for another year. And I tried everything. I was determined to heal this naturally. And it's a really hard thing to stick to. And I felt very restricted. I was pretty much eating potatoes and broccoli. And I know that that's not really the case, but it was just like fruit, potatoes and broccoli, lots of juicing. But I also wasn't nourishing myself, and I really wasn't working on anything else. I was isolating myself because I was scared to socialise in case I ate something that I shouldn't have, or scared of, going to the toilet. And I think everyone with Crohn's or colitis will understand when you're in a flare, like I was, everything does feel really scary. Leaving the house does feel really scary in case anything would happen, and that's no life to be living anyway. But that's definitely not a life to be living in your 20s, when that's the time you're meant to be having the most amount of fun. And I let that really, really, really affect me. Anyway, fast forward, over this last Christmas period, I kind of let go of my diet a lot, and I let myself get eaten up by anxiety and eaten up by stress. I was just launching my health coaching business. I would pretty much just sit there and cry all of Christmas, which now looking back is really sad, and really, I just feel sorry for past me, even though that was only 5 months ago or 4 months ago or whatever it was. I was just so stressed, and I was so anxious, and I didn't want to admit it. I really didn't want to admit it. I felt kind of trapped in this endless cycle. I kind of felt a bit hopeless, even though I knew half of what I was doing was right, but also I felt, as I said, I felt really restricted and really just stuck. And then, so got to the new year. I won't go into too much detail, but another very stressful thing happened in my life. Basically, other really stressful things happened at the beginning of the year, and I just launched my business, so that was another added stress. And I think I was in survival mode for a little bit, just to try and get everything sorted. And I was really going to focus on my diet and everything. I need to get better. And at this point, I'd started bleeding again a lot. That had stopped for on and off, but then it just really started, probably the worst it had ever been. Long story short, a couple of months later, or a month or two later, I was feeling less stressed, but I was pushing myself a lot. Signed up for a marathon. I've having to up my hours at work, which is on my feet all day, and then also starting this business, posting on my social media, so having to do all of that as well, and then just emotional stress on the side of things as well. That all really got to me, and my body was pretty much just like, you need to chill. You're not going to get better unless you regulate your nervous system, unless you find a diet that's not stressing you out so much. work on your sleep quality, exercise, but don't be going crazy. I ended up in the hospital because I caught an infection. I basically had this big, looks like I got it there, I've just been scratching. I had this big rash up my arm and my body couldn't clear it. My body was just like, no, Carla, you're not okay, basically. And yeah, then that resulted in a bit of a flare. Yeah, the bleeding was starting again, and I just thought, oh God, I really need to work on this. Anyway, so as much as I am for healing without medication, I did accept some steroids again, because even though that doesn't get to the root cause, it does buy you a little bit of time. And I'm not saying, like, as a health coach, I'm not saying medication is the way forward, but I do think sometimes you do just have to set aside your ego and just accept a little bit of help from some medication or something. Not in all circumstances, and to be honest, not in most circumstances, but where I had left that bleeding for over 2 years at that point, the damage that I was doing to my insides, I needed like a drastic that, and then focus on a whole foods, very simplified diet, but less restricted than I was doing before. So now I do eat things like some oily fish, as long as it's not, I've basically just cut out all processed foods, and that has honestly made the world of difference. I've learned how to regulate my nervous system. I don't feel stress like how I used to, and the way that I've handled situations in the past few months. I'm so proud of myself for learning how to just not get into that negative spiral and learning coping mechanisms to be able to do that. Like, for me, going into the hospital for 5 days and accepting medication and everything else in between, that would have sent me into a frenzy, and I probably would have cried a lot. And I didn't. I am trying to find the positives in everything, and don't get me wrong, it can be hard sometimes. I'm not like this person that's like everything is great all the time and there's nothing negative in the world. That's unrealistic. But I think it's been really important for me to be able to try and see the positives in things, and I'm not gonna lie, like these past few, especially the last few weeks, but even before that, even before kind of my hospital trip, things were a lot better once I started working on everything other than just my food as well. I am in a really great place with my health now. I know it's still early, and obviously the doctors want you to be on medication for life, which I'm not going to be. But with everything that I've learned and everything kind of put together, it's not just this one thing, it's all these little things. I have my life back. I can socialize. I can eat things that I was too scared to eat. I can sleep. I'm sleeping better. All these different things that I've done have, yeah, it feels so great to not have to worry about leaving the house, or like I don't even think about where the toilet is. I can just get my shoes on and just like go somewhere, you know, which is something that I haven't been able to do really since pre-travels, which was over 2 years ago. So yeah, I don't know if this is just a kind of jumbled mess of nothing. I mean, I've been filming now for 40 minutes. Where does the time go? My mum always said I was a chatterbox. I didn't believe her, but I think I am. I'm sure I've probably missed things out. If you have any questions, follow my Instagram. That's probably where I'm most active. glowyourhealth_, or comment on the video. Please like and subscribe. This feels weird saying this is only my, I think, second or third YouTube video, so I don't really know what to say, but I will be posting more on here. I quite enjoy doing like a longer form content. These will probably just be more kind of sit down, chatty videos until they're not. But yeah, that is my Crohn story. I hope, bloody flies. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you found it useful. Yeah. Have a lovely day, and I will be back for another video next week. Take care. Bye.